Hello and welcome to that Peter Crouch podcast with me, Peter Crouch. Notorious SID with me today. No Chris Stark as he's away, and actually I'm not in the Chumbawamba myself, but we're making this work because we're diehard podcasters, content creators. That's what we are. How are you doing, Sid?
I feel a little bit lonely here, mate. It feels really weird with obviously you're not in your chair and Chris is not here. So yeah, it's one of them. I'm solo, but this is what you're right. We make it work, and you've come up with a great concept, haven't you, to engage the fans?
I really have, Sid. Do you know what's happened, right? I feel like I put out a little tweet today saying send us some questions in, and I'm not joking. Within a couple of hours, we had hundreds, if not thousands, of messages. I do love the people that listen to this podcast because they are involved. Some of them are absolute belters, some really interesting football questions. They've refrained from how did you pull your missus, thankfully. Thankfully, I appreciate that. There's a couple of them, but not as many as I'd like. I did have to put it on there saying, can you refrain from that? And they have, and they've come up with some absolute belters. So similar to what we do on the Therapy Crouch, we do Ask Us Anything. Just ask me and Sids whatever you want, no holds barred, and we'll answer the questions. You all right with that, Sids?
Yeah, mate. Well, I see you put the tweet out. I woke up this morning, and obviously you're not here, so you're a few hours in front of me. And I woke up and I see probably about 30 or 40 replies. It's quickly gained momentum, and there's hundreds now. And we've sort of handpicked a few, haven't we, that we felt was right for this podcast, and there's a bit of a mix and match in there. So yeah, let's crack on. Let's do it.
All right, I'm going to fire straight in. One of the questions that caught my eye was from the Tottenham Hotspur historical account, Tottenham Hotspur history, and they asked, I thought was an interesting question. I just missed out on playing with Sheringham in 1997 and Berbatov in 2009. But which one of the two would you imagine you'd complement better in a two up top formation? What are your thoughts question on that, Sid? I'll be honest, there's a serious lack of pace in that entire front line, but
yeah, it's a great question, isn't it? They're two quality players. I love Teddy, and he's a great guy as well. I think there's a lot of chemistry there you can have with Teddy on and off the pitch. A lot of team bonding. I think the biggest question mark is when you flick on, who's going to be quick enough to get him behind and get the ball? I mean, is Berber going to do the runs in behind? Is he going to sacrifice and go in now? I'm not sure he can, but certainly them two boys can play with you. It's a deadly combo in terms of finishing for sure.
Yeah, I like it a lot. But so with the way I'm playing this, right, is I'm gonna try and stay high, and I'm probably going to get either Berber or Teddy just in behind. I'm going to stay as high as I possibly can. I've got pace on the wing here, so I'm going to go with Lennon and Bale either side of me in this Tottenham team. Prime Lennon, prime Bale, myself. And obviously you've played with Berber. Talk me through his qualities, because obviously I've been around Teddy. I've seen him in training when I was in the youth team and stuff like that very early on. He left pretty soon when I was in the youth team, but I've seen him pretty much close down. But you know more about Berber. Can you discuss his attributes for me?
Joe, one thing a lot of people don't realise about Berbatov is how strong he is. Like, he was so strong on the ball. Like, he was in the gym all the time doing, like weird manoeuvres, sort of yoga poses and stuff. Like, never really done weights, just all sort of body weight exercises. So he was strong. A lot of people don't realise how strong he was. He's quite wiry. And look, his touch, wasn't it? It was frightening. So I see this one, mate. I actually see this one as you being like really high up and balls just coming in, you just literally feed them, just knocking them down, and Teddy just coming on with the cultured finish. And then if you set one, and then you make a little move to your right or left, Berber's just going to slip you in again. So I think there's goals galore, like literally down the middle of that pitch. I wouldn't even worry about going wide. It's just all going to go down the spine of the team for you.
Yeah, exactly right. And I feel like I would love to have played with Berbatov, like an incredible player. But I think almost nostalgia-wise as well, Teddy, for me, probably doesn't get the credit maybe that he deserves. Like, as you know, when you're discussing the best English centre forwards of all time, I think Teddy's in that conversation. Like, I remember that, certainly in the early Spurs days. I mean, this is a man who wasn't blessed with terrific pace, but had so much guile and ability. And, fantastic at, link-up play, finishing. He got goals. I mean, it's a man, we've got over 150-odd Premier League goals, I think. So, yeah, I would have to say we could probably make an entire podcast over this discussion, but I feel like I'm going to go with Teddy. I don't know how you feel, Sids.
I don't think there's a wrong answer, Crouchy, is there? If I'm honest, they're both is going to be potent. I like Teddy as well. I think it's a great shout. I think he just gets the edge because you're going to win. You're going to win and lose off the pitch as well, aren't you? Really. So, whatever happens on the Saturday night, it's going to be taken out afterwards as well. So that tips it for me. But I love Teddy. I think it's a great shout, mate. Yeah, good answer.
Yeah, no, agreed. Let me put it back on you, Sids. Right? Who would you rather play with in central midfield?
Oh,
Frank Lampard or Steven Gerrard?
Oh.
But bearing in mind your attributes, you're not picking a better player. You're saying who would you take yourself out of the Chelsea equation as well? This is for England, right? You're starting for England. Who are you playing with in there?
That's really hard. I think if it's me and one other, no doubt Stevie is unbelievable. I mean, he can do everything, absolutely everything. Frank, he was the deadliest scoring midfielder I've ever played with. If I've got to pick in terms of how I would partner best, if I'm saying it right, so if I'm saying I'm a holding midfield player, then that just gives license to Frank to go and score goals, which he done in his career, so he didn't have to defend. If I'd done it with Stevie, I think he'd still get back and defend as well. So it would obviously give him more license to go and score goals. I think I have to edge with Stevie on that one. I think I played with Frank and his timings off the ball when he runs into the box and he just sort of ghosted and scored goals. But Stevie, I think, would be a perfect match because if it come on top where the other team would get in on the edge, I think he could come inside, batten down the hatches with me and just ride it out.
Let me throw one other thing in the mix though here, right? You could potentially have Makaleli in there as well. And then you could be the other Steve Sidwell that we know, prime Reading, 20 goal a season man, if you played Makaleli in there.
I could go really selfish here and say I want to go have Makaleli in there and get all the plaudits. But I'm not that guy.
And I know you're not that guy. And I knew that would be your answer, but...
I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to have Stevie in there.
Fair enough.
Because one, as well, it'd be a dream come true to have played with him. So, Stevie for me. So Teddy for you and Stevie for me, yeah?
Lovely. Match made in heaven. I just want to move on to one here, Sids. Of all the footballers you've ever played with, who would be the easiest to sellotape to a lamppost? Bear in mind, they're trying not to be sellotaped to a lamppost. That's from Steve.
Oh, Steve, that's a good question. That's a really good question.
Is it those Sids?
I'm trying to think of this one. So obviously there's two types of characters that we're saying with this Crouchy, isn't there? You either got one that's a bit of a cannon and doesn't mind being sellotaped to a lamppost, or we're going for a small, feeble player that needs to get in the gym and be on the weights that we can just wrestle against a lamppost and sellotape, isn't it, really? I mean, I know there's a few nutcases that we've played with in our times, but I don't see any of them just willingly wanting to be sellotaped to a lamppost. Oh, do you know what I was thinking of? Just come to my mind straight away. I was thinking of Bojan. Or Muniese. Yeah, do you know, like small ones that, but then I'm thinking they're quick and nimble and they might just be able to just duck and dive and get out of it. But
you know what those Sids? Stronger than he looks, I would say, Bojan. No. Do you remember his legs? Remember his legs? I just don't. I think if I pick Bojan out and go for it and don't get him on a lamppost, I think I could get ridiculed there.
Are you going to go down the same route as me? Are you thinking of someone that's small and slight that we can just bully to sellotape to the. Yeah.
So obviously in charge of lighting and sound today, Sean is behind the camera. It's come up with a great shout. Yossi Benayoun was a.
That's superb. Yeah. Yeah, you've nailed it there. I was thinking more Luka Modric as well in that sort of mould, but Yossi.
No, mate. I'm telling you now. He's got that arse he can manoeuvre. That big legs. No, Bolo Zenden. Is that Abby? Sorry, Abby's behind the camera as well. Yeah, she shouted Bolo Zenden. He's a black belt in Taekwondo.
I was going to say that. Yeah, I knew that. I think you've nailed it with Yossi Benayoun there. I don't think he's going to put up much of a fight, is he?
I don't know, but you know what? He's elusive, mate. He gives him snake hips. Unbelievable question. You never know with these questions. That's what I'm saying. Really interesting football question there. And another one from Steve about sellotape to a lamppost. You never know what's going to get thrown up. And Benayoun's a player I've not really thought of much since. But what a great lad as well. I enjoyed that. I'd enjoy sellotaping him.
So you sticking with Yossi, yeah?
I'm going to stick with it, mate, yeah.
Right, Crouchy, I've got one here, mate. This is from Alex. Do you reckon Michael Oliver puts his seatbelt on before starting the engine?
Yeah. I see where he's going with this. I do think there's a certain degree. I'd say the percentage of referees that put their seatbelt on before starting the car is high. I would say it was a high percentage. I think they're in authority. I don't think that they're very obviously by the book to do things correctly. I think there's a lot of mirror checking. I think they adjust mirrors, seatbelt on before engine, and I would say that 65% of referees do that.
I think Michael Oliver. I don't think he pushes the button. I think he winds down his window, and I think he wipes the side mirror as well. I think he's a wet wipe.
A wet wiper.
Do you reckon that more assistant referees, because they seem quite chilled and placid, don't they? The linesmen, the assistant referees, rather than referees, or are we just sticking to? Are we putting them all in the same category here?
I do think there's definitely a little bit more rogue assistant referees, I would say, than referees. I don't know. Listen, this is purely on outsiders looking in, so I don't know for sure. But it's my take on it as being on the outside.
All right, so we're gonna say that Michael Oliver puts his seatbelt on before he starts the engine. Yeah,
I believe so. Yes,
I believe so. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I think we've nailed that one.
Okay, I've got a question here from Site. It says, how soon after a transfer do you get removed or included in teams' WhatsApp groups? What happens if you go out on loan? Do you stay in or out? And then are you in two group chats?
Yeah, I've actually experienced this. I've done this one. You got to go out. You can't be in two. You can't flirt. You can't flirt between two. It's code of conduct, isn't it? I'm not one as well for all them constant notifications. I know you can archive it and turn notifications off, but I remember when I left Stoke and I went to Brighton, and I was gutted to leave our group chat because it was electric, wasn't it? It was a good one, that. So I took myself out. I took myself out the Stoke one, said goodbye to the lads. Even if I was going to go back, which I didn't know, I thought if I can go back, I'll rejoin the group. But yeah, you're in a new dressing room. You can't be in two dressing rooms, WhatsApp groups. What do you think?
No, I agree totally. I think the England one's pretty ruthless. I know that obviously with every squad, I think they start a new one, So if you're not in the squad, you've been ejected. I think there's a couple of breakaway kind of lads groups. But, you'll be ejected pretty sharpish, to be honest. I remember holding on to the Burnley one for a while. Obviously, the last club I played for in football after I retired was Burnley, and I hung on for a while for dear life just to be a part of it, really, whilst I was not in the playing football. But
was there a specific moment, mate, when you had to let that one go?
Yeah, it was
Did someone just say to you, Pete, you need to get out of this now? You haven't been here for 2 months.
I think I stayed in there for about 6 months. lads were organising this and that, team dinners, and I was, one of those, everyone's got one, every WhatsApp group's got them. You know, the silent observer who you forget that isn't in, who doesn't actually have any input into the group whatsoever. But you look on, you press the top and you look at the people in it and you go, oh my God, I forgot he was in it.
Didn't even know, yeah.
That was me. That was me in the Burnley group.
Was you hovering over the button a long time whether to take yourself out or not, or was it a quick decision?
It was the end of an era, right? So now, having been established with football, established at football clubs since, I was at QPR at 14, 13. So from 13 to 38, to then take yourself out of a football club, have no affiliation with one, was a hard thing to do. But it's something that you have to go through as a footballer. And it was a sad day.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. Talking to Stoke, I've got a question here, mate, from John. It says, this is obviously for you, Pete, this is, what song was loudest? Not best, what song was loudest? Was it Delilah at Stoke before kickoff, or was it You'll Never Walk Alone at Anfield before kickoff?
Oh.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. You know why? Because the obvious answer would be You'll Never Walk Alone, right? Because it's world famous. Champions League nights are special. The flags are going. But you've been there, Sids, on some of those big occasions, some of those big night games at Stoke. It's a massive song, that. And obviously it's played out and the crowds sing it over the top. And it is amazing that, like, and then we had some great atmospheres at some of those Stoke games. And obviously they weren't. I remember the first game in the Europa League, not been in it. Some of the games against Arsenal, especially, because there was a bit of a grudge against Arsenal. It wasn't, we're not going on the best kind of atmosphere or just the loudest, right? And
it says the loudest.
Certainly on a level. Because the entire stadium is singing. There's probably just more people at Anfield. So, as special as Delilah was, I'd probably have to still side with You'll Never Walk Alone on some of those big Champions League nights. I mean, there was certainly the biggest one for me springs to mind was a Champions League semi-final against Chelsea. And we were 1-0 down. And when it feels like the Anfield kind of needs the crowd, or the Liverpool team needs the crowd, they just go extra special. And that, I've never sampled an atmosphere like it. That was certainly on home soil. But I think you put Stoke in that similar situation of, a semi-final of a Champions League. Unfortunately, that, didn't happen and hasn't been the case. But I think if you did, and you gave them the same amount of people, it'd be just as good.
Like, historically, You'll Never Walk Alone is undoubtedly one of the greatest football songs ever. But when it said loudest, and I've experienced both, obviously playing at Anfield as an away team and playing at Stoke as an away team and as a home team as well. And they do roar. They do get that place going as well. It's a tough place to go, Stoke. So I thought it was actually a really good question. So, I thought you might edge with You Never Walk Alone because, again, I think the Champions League does probably just divide that one. Because, again, like, even, it's mad because the camera shakes, isn't it? You can see the camera shaking when they're sort of singing it. I thought it was great. Great question.
Yeah, good question. I've got a good one here from Charlie, right, Sid? My question is, pre-match meals, how did that change when you started to the end of your career? Did you notice a real difference in how you felt performance-wise?
We're of a similar era, coming through, similar age. I don't know about you. Did you find all the pre-match food when we first come through, and actually throughout probably the first half of our careers, was quite bland, wasn't it? It was like a chicken breast, and it was like sometimes boiled, wasn't it? It was like a boiled chicken breast, a jacket potato. You could have cereal, beans, pasta, even like it'd be spaghetti or penne pasta, and it'd be like a side dish of like some ropey tomato sauce, wasn't it? It wasn't great, was it?
No, the distinct lack of sauce. Like a really, really dry. And then when the early kickoffs started coming in, you're thinking, I need to eat, right? I need energy. And you talk about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, you're thinking, I'm going to have to get chicken, pasta and boiled potatoes down me. That, it was a struggle. But then obviously, I remember speaking to Macca recently about it. He would say, I don't know what, that was just a purely English thing. Like we'd have actually really nice meals for dinner. I remember like they were talking about having a glass of wine before matches. You know, a night before a match, they'd have a bottle of wine on the table for the players.
Yeah.
We just wouldn't be. That couldn't ever happen with us.
No.
No
chance.
What changed for me was watching Gareth Bale. And I've talked about this before. Watching Gareth be, probably the most intense runs, most distance covered. Like it was ridiculous. Like he was one of the fittest players I've ever seen. Just literally have baked beans on toast every time. And
really?
And I thought, what is in those beans? So I started doing it. I thought, I started doing baked beans on toast. I thought it must be the difference. It didn't quite work for me. But when you see other people doing different things, and certainly with later on in your career, you see definitely the chefs and stuff at the training grounds changed. I mean, by the end, some of the food. I remember interviewing Jurgen Klopp, and he said to me, the new training centre just opened up. Obviously, they left Melwood, went to the new one, and he said to me, we said, we don't leave here. He said, I'm here till all hours. He swears blind. The training ground have got the best food in the whole of the Northwest.
Do you know what? I can see that because Brighton has just changed as well. I was down the other week, and like they got different stations. They got like the teppanyaki station, like just a chef dedicated to that. And Joe, where it stemmed from, I think it was Millie. I think it was James Milner that drove it into the club, like higher up, to say this isn't good enough. This it needs to be obviously what he's experienced at Liverpool. They had wagyu steak, mate, on tap every day. I couldn't believe what I'd seen. It was like a restaurant.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Do you know what what changed for me, Crouchy, was when you, and this obviously goes when the top clubs, and Liverpool definitely would have done this, was when they took their own chef to away games. And then you woke up the next morning and your pre-match before the game was basically not necessarily cooked by your chef, but he'd oversee that kitchen wherever you stayed. And that's when it was a whole new ball game, wasn't it?
Mm. So this is something that we talked about actually on the pod when you were taking your own chefs. Like, say we're going away in the Champions League with Liverpool, and obviously we take our chef everywhere. I remember he would go into the kitchen. Say we were playing Galatasaray, right? You go into the kitchen at the hotel in Turkey, right, in Istanbul, and he's basically kind of gazumping the chefs in there. And you know what chefs are like? Chefs are like, it's their sanctuary, right? Can you imagine, some kind of English chef coming in going, no, this is how we want it. This is how we do it. They can't have been happy with that.
They're strict, aren't they, chefs? I mean, I wouldn't like someone coming in my house telling me how to cook my eggs on toast.
Can you imagine? That's what I'm saying. Are you coming here and going, no, this is not how we do it. We do it like this.
It's changed loads, though. So, I think when we first started to now, there's a whole variety now, isn't there? I think you can even get something bespoke made to yourself, whatever, penny. You can say if you wanted, I don't even know, any kind of sauce, arrabbiata sauce, they'll just knock it up for you and have whatever you wanted for pre-match. So I think it's changed loads now.
Yeah.
Loads.
And I would say, I did feel better towards the end, putting the right fuel in your body. When you understand the science of it all, we had people coming in and explaining like how important your sleep is, how important your diet is. I did feel a lot better. I mean, we've talked about this before, Sid, but like those pre-season days where you have a long summer, and I miss these. I really miss these. Like I feel like doing a pre-season myself after the summer now. When you come in and you go to like Austria, you breathe the clean air, you're running, you're swimming, you're no alcohol, you're eating the right diet. Even for 10 days, how good do you feel?
Yeah.
During those, when the first game kicks off, you could not be any healthier, and I miss doing that. I feel like maybe we should go into pre-season, get Chris involved, and we all just have a pre-season.
It's basically clean living, isn't it? That is what it is, and we're not accustomed to that now, are we? We have a few bevies and the food. We can have a few tea and biscuits, and I think if we're going to do that, Starkey, it'd be a challenge for him on the barbecue. I think it'd be a good challenge. I think it's a challenge he'd rise to.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm not sure if you could go with a barbecue without a barbecue. Mind you, we did have barbecues pre-season, didn't we? We had the, on the Sunday, we had the odd Sunday. It was still a healthy barbecue. It'd probably be low and slow.
He's still after us to go round there and knock up a barbecue, isn't he? So let's get a day in the diary and see if he can produce.
Yeah.
I've got a message here from I think it's Andy. What frustrates you most about players nowadays?
Oh, I never like answering this question because you can come across as kind of too old because I like to live and let live.
Yeah.
What annoyed me certainly towards the end of the career, and we've been very vocal on this, and the back stronger thing comes from this, is the social media aspect of it. People pretending or portraying something that isn't real. Catfishing, if you like. Potential Premier League catfishers all around the place. And I feel like we could even use this, Sid, as a hashtag. And I feel we could call players out on this. And if you see a message on Instagram or a message on TikTok or X, Twitter, if you see a potential catfish, you could hashtag catfish and tag us in on it, because it's still going on. It's still going on. After the game, if someone says, we'll, thanks to the supporters for their great support, we're sorry for the loss. We gave it 100%, but we'll be back stronger next week. If you see a message like that and you don't feel like it's sincere, or you see someone working out maybe outside the training ground with a personal trainer, and you don't think that they're maybe not putting it in on a Saturday, maybe just put a little hashtag catfishing and tag in the podcast, and we'll know exactly what you mean.
That could spark fury, I think.
Well, you know what? I just think, it might be...
No, but you're right. You're right.
That's what annoys me the most is, and it's not... Listen, and 99% of the players, I'm sure, they are putting in. But you know the player I'm talking about here, Sids, when I say there was one player at Stoke that was catfishing, and it really annoyed me. And he was, on social media doing his stuff with his personal trainer outside the training ground. What he was like in the training ground, which we saw firsthand, was not the person we saw getting portrayed. And what annoyed me was fans were falling for it, and they were like, how is he not playing? He should be playing ahead of him. And the players they were saying that they should be playing ahead of were working hard, were putting it in, and were doing the right for the team. So that was something that really annoyed me.
I get that. Okay. So you've gone for one off the field. I'm going to go one on the pitch. And my one is players not scoring from outside the box. When are we going to see a Peter Crouch volley again?
Sid,
I'm being serious.
No, you've hit the nail on the head here.
Don't get it wrong, you'll get the odd few, but how many bangers was there? Like, you go back, you watch Sky now, and you go back rolling through the years. There was Stevie, Lampsey, Didier, strikers, even sort of defenders would have a go outside the box. There was goals from all over the place. Now it's all about getting to the byline, cutting it back, and scoring a goal.
So Matt Letizia, how many 30-yard screamers did he get? Right, If he I think if you put him in that Man City team, and he was gifted enough to play in that Man City team, I don't think he scores half of those goals because he would be told, you don't shoot from there. We've got to get nearer the box. We've got to pass it through the lines. And this is the issue. Shearer again, 30-yard belters. Tony Yeboah, remember some unbelievable volleys from outside the box. I totally agree with you, Sid. It's a problem. And one of the other messages we had, and I can't remember his name because I didn't tag it in, but he said to me, "Oh, do you think we're going to see 1,000 passes in a game from Manchester City?"
I did see that.
And I
did see that.
It's just a frustration of, obviously it's an amazing way of playing and they're winning everything doing it, but is it as exciting sometimes as a non-league battle that maybe doesn't have as many passes, or an old school game where it's more physical than a passing dominated possession game? I do think that there is a case for that. Is it as exciting watching a team pass a team to death?
Yeah, even like you as you're going on the names there, I literally just one come into my head. Was it Papa Cisse? Do you remember his goal for Newcastle at Chelsea?
Banana shot, yeah.
Like, are we ever? Is anyone going to just take a shot off the cuff again? Like literally, like your one there, which is probably one of your greatest goals you ever scored. It just got headed back to you. Was it from Pennant? And you just popped it up. You knew you was in the most outrageous position in the pitch, and you just popped it up, going, "I'm gonna have a go.
I'm gonna have a punt." If you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the lottery. I feel like that saying's gone out of football. Like I don't think I've heard a commentator say that for 20 years.
Yeah, it's all about, do you know what? Going on to that one about Man City, I don't think that's far, 1,000 passes. Is that 1,000 passes? There's 1,000 passes in a game, isn't it?
Total domination.
Yeah, that's where football's going, isn't it?
Yeah, it's worth raising, Sids. This is a lovely public forum. And if you agree, people can write in and say if they agree. And if you disagree and say, obviously, no, that's the way the game's gone and we've evolved and it's beautiful to watch. I do think there's a case for some of, the old school football. And I think sometimes when you see maybe almost less technical players playing, I think it can be as exciting as the most technically gifted players. And I genuinely mean that.
Okay, so we agree then. So let's get some old school bangers back on the track.
Sid, one here, right, from Dave. This is Dave F73. He says, to visit an old pub conversation and bring it up to date, if a Premier League manager had to take a penalty in a shootout to save your life, who would it be?
Oh, what a shout that is. A current Premier League manager, yeah?
Yeah.
I suppose you could go down the easy route and go in, right, who's young, who's sort of not been retired that long. You go for sort of a Gary O'Neill, an Arteta. Pep would be class as well. He'd be cool as a cucumber.
Should you think Pep there? Yeah.
Or are we just going to go sort of Sean Dyche, head down? I could see him just,
Sid, you've hit the nail on the head there with Sean Dyche. I've been in his company, right, having a couple of beers, and he's talked me through it. Absolute laces one for Chesterfield. I think it was the semi-final of the FA Cup. I'm sure it was at Old Trafford. He's laced one straight down the middle, and see nothing like it's Julian Dick style. I think, obviously, if I'm staking my life on a penalty, and there'll be probably more technically. You think Arteta, like you say, Gary O'Neill, maybe. So definitely some technical players out there, but I want someone lacing it centrally, high, job done. So Sean Dyche is my pick.
Yeah, that's a great shout. I remember that penalty, 1997. I was about 14, 15. They was massive underdogs, wasn't they? Against Middlesbrough. That's the game. Okay, I like where you're going there. I'm going to go, and I think the Arsenal fans are going to probably enjoy this one. And I'm going to go with Arteta because he was a cultured player. I just can't see him not hitting the target. I think he's just nailed on to at least hit the target, which is perfect in my opinion. But more on than that, he's nailed on to score. I think he took pens as well, didn't he, for Everton? I think he might have even taken for Arsenal when he played. So, I'm going to go for Arteta for me.
I feel like it's gone really well. I've enjoyed every moment of that. Sid, have you?
Yeah, Joe, it's good to get questions like football specific ones and some left field ones from Steve, like the Lamppost. So it gives you a bit of an insight of our thinking of players and stuff. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed that. Bit of reminiscence of times, the pre-match one as well. And yeah, you're right. Look, two things I think have definitely come out of this. One is catfishing, and two, let's get bangers back.
Catfishing and bangers. I think it's a perfect scenario. And listen, you know, I've loved it. Some of the best things we've ever done has come out of the messages episodes. When the listeners get involved, it always makes for a great episode. We should do this again, definitely, when we're all back together and we're back stronger. But for now, Sids, I will be back stronger next week. I'll be sitting next to you, and I'm looking forward to it. So hopefully we'll have Chris back as well, and we'll see you then, Sids.
See you soon, mate. Enjoy the holidays.
Will do. Don't you worry about that.